Hey everybody, Professor Berninger here. Today we're going to talk about Joyce Carol Oates' short story, Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been? It's kind of a scary tale with a pretty creepy guy, Arnold Friend, in it. But before we get around to Arnold Friend, I want to talk about Connie and what her home life, family life is like. And most of you, when you answered the discussion board question, said, yeah, she's a typical 15-year-old, little rough relationship with her mom, on again, off again, friendly, sometimes not. Very interested in her looks, right? Connie is almost, she can never not walk by a mirror without looking at herself. If she were around today, of course, she would be posting 1,000 selfies on the gram and Facebook and wherever else people put up selfies these days. So she's very much interested in her looks, her self-identity. Not unusual stuff for a 15-year-old girl. It's all part of sort of understanding the changes that they're going through and the woman they're becoming. So it's not necessarily a criticism, though she's a little cranky. She knows that her mom actually favors her over her sister June. Now, how can you favor someone who you argue with a lot? Well, the mom favors Connie because Connie's most like her. However, that's left mom a little bit jealous that Connie is still young and attractive, etc., etc. And I guess I would characterize their relationship, here's a good word for you, mercurial. You know, mercury is the only liquid metal in its natural state, room temperature. And sometimes they would almost be friends, and then some little irritation would come up, and that was it. It was like a fuse was lit, and boom, an argument would take off. And that happens. I've seen it happen with mothers and teenage girls. So mom treats her more like a peer, right? Arguing with her, a little jealous of her. Doesn't really be much of a mom. You don't see her being the adult in the room. That's what parents are supposed to be. They shouldn't treat their kids like peers. They should be the adult in the room. And dad is just flat out not interested. Comes home, reads the newspaper, and that's it. There's another dad who picks up Connie and a friend at the, out on the town, picking them up to bring them home, and asks how them, doesn't ask anything, right? Doesn't ask anything. Now, here's a little tip, and for the parents in the class, and you who might become parents, you grill your kids about everything in a nice way, right? But how was the movie? Who was in the movie? How many people were in the movie? You just ask all sorts of questions about anything the kid claims to have been doing that night, and it's pretty easy to trip them up. You're not necessarily accusing them of anything, but you just show a great interest in everything that they are doing when they are not with you. And that gives them the sense that you're very interested in what they're doing when they are not with you. And maybe it'll prevent some bad behavior. Who knows? So Connie's home life, she has this sort of frumpy, goody two-shoes sister, June, who works at the school. So at school, Connie's not even away from her sister, who sort of makes Connie look like the bad girl. Her mother treats her like a peer, which is not good. And the dad is really not interested in anything at all. It's not a terrible home life. It doesn't seem abusive in any way. It's in some ways, it's a little, maybe not typical, but there's really nothing unusual or outstanding about their home life or her as a girl. She does sometimes wish her mom dead. That's not uncommon for a kid to wish a parent dead in some way. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but if you have a little bit of a bad temper, it can happen, at least in your head. There are actually some deep psychological things about that most people go through, but I wouldn't read too much into that. So what else about Connie's life before Arnold shows up? the place, now I want you to think for a minute, just take a minute here and think. Where are you, who are you with when you feel most alive? Who are you with, where are you when you feel most alive, most excited to be just in the world, right? Maybe it's on the soccer field if you're a soccer player or a softball player or baseball player. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's watching sports on TV. Maybe it's in church. We know this family doesn't go to church, but maybe it's when you're worshiping in a church or synagogue or mosque or wherever you worship, right? Maybe it's walking in nature. Maybe it's riding a bicycle. Maybe it's playing music. Maybe it's reading your short stories for English 102 class. I don't know, right? But most people have a spot where when they are there, they feel most alive. For me, it's probably when I'm alone, maybe riding my bicycle. It's pretty exhilarating, and I'm away from a lot of the details of life that we can all get caught up in. Where is it for Connie? Where does Connie feel most alive? Also, you know what, I have to say, sometimes when I'm teaching, even into a camera, it's pretty exciting, and I feel like I'm really, I don't know, I'm just alive, baby, I'm alive. All right, settle down, Professor Berninger. For Connie, where she feels most alive is when she is being ogled. Do you guys know that word? It's kind of an old word. When she is being ogled as an object of sexual desire at the burger joint. And let me just read to you a little bit here. It's kind of a long passage, but the way Joyce Carol Oates writes this, you just get the sense that Connie is electrified, right? That Connie is electrified at this moment. This is her and her friend. They get dropped off at like the mall or the movies, and then they run across the highway. They went up through the maze of parked and cruising cars to the bright lit, fly-infested restaurant. Their faces, kind of gross, but their faces pleased and expectant, as if they were entering a sacred building that loomed out of the night to give them what haven and what blessing they yearned for. She uses religious terminology. They sat at the counter and crossed their legs at the ankles. Ooh, racy. Their thin shoulders rigid with excitement, and listened to the music that made everything so good. The music was always in the background, like music at a church service. It was something to depend upon. So this is where Connie and her friend, feel most alive. Listen to that language. A sacred building that loomed out of the night. Faces pleased and expectant. They listened to the music that made everything so good. Music's a big part of the story. We'll talk about that in a minute. So where are you valued? Let's go through our sort of hypothetical list again. Let's say you're a fantastic soccer player. You are valued on the soccer field. Let's say you're a fabulous child, a daughter or son, and you feel really valued by your parents as a member of the family. Hopefully you all feel valued. Hopefully your job, you feel valued. Hopefully you feel valued as a student at Columbia Green. I value all of you very much, right? Hopefully you feel, wherever you feel valued, you feel comfortable, and it's where you want to be. There's only one place where Connie feels valued: at the fly-infested burger joint, where she is treated as an object of sexual desire. She is not valued as a daughter. She is not valued as a student. We don't see any particular value of her as a friend. She goes with her friends to the fly-infested burger joint. They don't go to church. She doesn't seem to be involved in sports or music. She listens to music. But she is valued only. The only place she is valued. Now we're back to what poem, right? What poem, people? What poem? Barbie doll. Now we're back to Barbie doll. She is only valued as an object of sexual desire. Therefore, that is what she is going to play up, right? We generally like going places where we are valued because we feel valued there. Yeah, duh. Just briefly on music, maybe not briefly. Why is it that people in her age group are really the target audience of any musician who wants to make a lot of money, right? Any musician who wants to make a lot of money wants to be popular with the 13 to 20 age group because they spend money on music, right? I spend almost no, I love music, but I'm happy listening to the radio. I don't go crazy about any particular artist and download their music or buy their CDs. If you guys, I mean, you might not know what CDs are. But young people especially want that escape. And music puts Connie in a dreamy-like state, right? It puts her in Arnold Friend. We'll get to him a little bit. We'll get to him in a little bit. He uses music to get in her head, right? To get in her head. So like a lot of young people who always have music on, right? You know, I hate when I see people walking in nature or walking their dog with headphones on. Listen to the world around you. Anyway, I'm going on a rant here, people. Rein yourself in, Professor Berninger. So Connie's life, not unusual for a 15-year-old girl. She's not valued at school, church, sports field. She's really not valued as a daughter. Her mother's jealous of her, treats her like a peer. This is not an unusual life. It's not the worst life, right? It's not terrible, right? It's not terrible. It's just that period of life. She is only valued as an object of sexual desire. That is what sets her up to be vulnerable to the charms of Arnold Friend. So here's a key question for you that may appear on an essay exam, where on the essay exam you have to write the answer that I provide to you in the YouTube videos and in class. Some of you go way off script on the essay exam. Don't. Be a little creative if you want, but stick to what I'm teaching you, okay? So, Connie is only valued as an object of sexual desire. She does not go to the family barbecue on this particular Sunday when the main events of the story take place. She stays home, lying out in the sun, listening to music. So we will pick the story up there in our next segment when Arnold Friend enters the story.